Hi, everyone. So I have been told this is the last hour of your hackathon. So how's it going? How's the experience? You guys can talk or, type it in. Oh, that's good. Okay, let's see. Sven, that's the life. Pretty good. Good to hear, Gagan. Yep. Okay, if I think most of, people I'm expecting are here. If you guys are good, or you want me to wait for a minute, if you know somebody from your team or somebody else you know is, going to be joined, I can wait, or we can just get started. Okay. Okay. Let me see if I can get my screen going. Okay. Press now. Okay. Can you see my screen? Yep. Awesome. Yeah. So I thought, let me introduce myself and why I thought I think this is a good idea for, to have a workshop. I'm Prashant Konle. I've worked in tech in startups for close to 20 years. I started my career as a startup co-founder in a healthcare technology firm. Uh, Over the years, I have worked in various industries: financial services, healthcare, regulations, retail, e-commerce, offline retail, um, and I've been an angel investor as well as investor in cup, maybe later stage investor, but invested in a couple of well-known companies. Right now, I work for a company which does products for aerospace and defense, and also I'm a partner in one of a pooled investment management company where we pool investments into late stage companies, primarily AI, space, and these kinds of companies. So I've gone through my share of investment pitch decks and startup ideas and talked to a lot of entrepreneurs. Uh, so I thought, what happens after a hackathon? Okay, a hackathon is like, 2 3 days of intense work where you are focused. You come to a conclusion of a particular idea within the first couple of hours or so, and then you are working to make it viable. But if you really want to take that idea forward and make something out of it, then what does it require? And these are my kind of views on how to go about it. And a couple of things I would like to kind of, the overall theme is that the process is not that inventive, it's much more structured. Okay, but the grind is where the wheat uh, separates from the chaff, as you call it. So it's just the grind, and having the structured process and taking the whole journey along that process, which makes it much more successful rather than just the idea. Because as you see in an entrepreneurial journey, the things which really kind of set back any startup are usually not the technology or the idea. It tends to be the team, the operational issues, and what is called as the customer and go to market and distribution strategy, which kind of defines if you are able to kind of make the launch and scale up, or just be a middling startup is going to run out of gas in 6 months to a year. So let's go to this one. Okay. Yep. So as I started, the transitioning is basically demands a very structured approach. Okay, that requires planning, discipline, execution, and persistent effort. It is a bit different from how you do an hackathon, where you're bringing ideas together, and like oftentimes you're piecemealing things together to make it work, because you want to see a conceptual idea in visually in front of the audience and yourself. But once your hackathon is finished and your idea is with you, and let's say a core sample of your product is with you, the next steps are much more structured. You have to follow a process. There are certain things you need to take care of before really starting your startup journey. And that's something like it's hygienic, and I'll say a couple of things are most important when you are actually trying to do a startup journey. So one is, you just work with the idea and you redefine the customer and what is their need. Okay, so you really need, like, oftentimes what we say that, okay, this is my customer and this is the need. And the second point is, do the customer care enough to use and pay for it? Okay, so oftentimes I've seen that you make a product and you're talking to, like, your friends, your network, and say, this is my product idea, and you'll get those rave reviews and say, this is a great idea, we need it and everything. But I would often say to any kind of when I'm trying to do due diligence on any of the startup, I'll often ask potential customers how much they're going to pay for it. Because when people are asked to take a concrete decision and not just talk about the idea, that's when the reality comes to picture. If you make a product and say, hey, are you gonna pay, like, 49 dollars per month per user to use this product, that will tell you the reaction. Okay, and the funny thing is, I always say that you should get a strong reaction from your customer, whether it's negative or positive. That's immaterial. I'll say it has to be a strong reaction, wherein they should be absolutely floored and be, this is something, how about 49, I'm going to willing to pay $99 to get. Or they need to say, what, that's, this idea is absolutely trash, it's not going to anywhere. The reason you want to do it is because there should be a connection. Okay, if your customer is potential customer base is wavering and they are sure unsure, that means the idea is not going to go anywhere, or it's not going to be able to scale. So you need to get that strong reaction, whether extremely positive or extremely negative, because you know where you stand. If they are dilly dallying and say maybe in this way, that way, if you add this, the list of those things never end, and your product and your idea will never go anywhere. So your idea has to have that potential where it will basically turn a switch on to the customer. Obviously, once you have decided, you're going to do your market evaluation, look at how the market space is, where you're going to attack, you know, a particular segment, a geography, a distribution strategy which define the market. So those are rudimentary steps, but you have to go through those chain, cycles of thinking, because it refines what you are saying and what you're thinking. Okay. And then, it gets to the next step, that hey, okay, I have a customer, they have a requirement for product, the market is good, big enough, I'm going to focus on this region. The last step is normally we don't think is how easy and fast it is to enter the market. A lot of markets, particularly if you're trying to do B2B products, or even B2C, the market entry might not be difficult, but the chain or the life cycle to basically land those big customers might be too long. Now, like for example, I work in aerospace defense manufacturing. If you're focusing on, let's say, an AI tool which is going to do help manufacturers, I have a recent paper where say how to do predictive maintenance using IoT and AI. It's a great topic, predictive maintenance. There's a market for it. There's huge scope for push for manufacturing in this country, and all those kinds of things. But the life cycle is going to be probably for this lot of manufacturing industry at least a year to year and a half before you are actually kind of working towards a pilot. Got it? And that's where you need to really think whether you have the runway, you have the desire, the potential to actually go into the market and fight for it and get that space. Or let's say you're going into another sector which is largely run by a couple of trade organizations, so you need to get into connects with those large organizations, and the forum is, let's say, a trade couple of trade organizations who are the industry standards. How long, how much time, worth, money, effort is going to take for you to get become a member, contribute enough where you have an audience, you have a space, you can pitch, you can market, you can reach out, have credibility. That might take a year and a half. Okay. And that's the thing, your idea is great, but if your go to market and your distribution, where the market is, how long the sales cycle is too long for what you're comfortable with, none of the things you do will matter. So that you have to always like think, is my idea good enough? Will the customer buy it, like it? Will the customer pay it? But do have the runway to actually make it happen. And that's very critical, like one of the forward looking things we I look when we are talking to potential investors, entrepreneurs when while investing, is how do you make, if you get a seed funding, let's say 500K, then let's look at the numbers of how you're going to spend the money. Is the runway there? How are we going to make that happen? Because the numbers don't justify. You can't say I created this MVP, I have talked to these customers and they like it, they want to do a pilot. Great. But by the time you actually put the pilot in place, they start using it, customers like, feedback goes up the chain, there is a sales cycle, it will be 6 9 months, 12 months. Okay. You might be just kind of run out of these kinds of uh, you know your runway in terms of your mental capacity, your idea. Yep. David, sales cycle. See, let's say you want to have a I'm talking in the context of a B2B product, but large organizations, when they start using a product, right, it goes through a lot of layers of bureaucracy, you can see. Customers, you have to get in touch, you have to do a couple of meetings, okay, of to demo the product, and these take time. Like even getting the ability to demo and pitch for 15 minutes or half an hour your product will take 1 to 2 months, particularly with large organizations, just to demo, and they will evaluate, go through their own internal thing and say we're going to do a pilot implementation. Let's talk to our technology team. A new layer comes in. Let's talk to our security team. Let's talk to our vendor management team is going to approve you as a vendor so that you can get. Do we need to do any integrations? We want to do single sign-on. Okay. Now you're going to work through the whole cycle of getting all those additional attachments going, stuff like that. And it's been 6 months, you still don't have anything in at the client who are using it, and they're going to run the pilot for 3 4 months and then say you're going to work through. Okay, they're going to do a limited release, you're going to negotiate, you're going to have contracts, you're going to have vendor due diligence. So that's another 3 to 6 months. Got it? So, like, holidays come, Thanksgiving, New Year's, Christmas, summer holidays. These are the realities of how entrepreneurship and the cycle works. So you are not just dealing with, the customer and their, fondness for the idea. These are the realities of your, working with your potential customers and who's buying, and their own motivations and what are things going on in their work. This, your product is your life, but that's one of the things which for the customer of n number of things they manage. So that's what I mean by sales cycle, that just because there is a market, just because the customers love it, doesn't mean that your idea will actually scale. Because if the potential of the nature of the product and industry is a longer sales cycle, then you have to be prepared for it. But the positive, you can always see that once you are inside the market and inside that industry, inside the customer, there is a lot of stickiness. Okay. So you really kind of once you are get your foot in the door, get the idea, get it working, they start using it and they derive value, then it's hard for any new entrant to come and push you out the longer you stay in the cycle. So that's a game you need to look at your idea once at the early stages, and not after you have actually created the product and did some advertising market and realize. That's a plan you have to do and say what is the sales cycle, how long does it take in an industry, and so on and so forth. Like it's like you upload, let's say you create a mobile app and you upload on Apple or Android Play Store. Okay, does it get approved within 24 hours, or the number of things you have to do, prepare for the documentation or any kind of information and potential questions and everything, right? So that's for against an industry which wants to have a marketplace. So there is incentive for Google to kind of have more and more products on the market, and still takes time. Now imagine the other side, where a company you are targeting to go and get your product into their usage, and they don't have similar incentive. Their incentive of their business is to do something, this will help. Okay, but doesn't mean that that is their priority for that. It's funny, like, I'll give an example. So years back I was working in a company where I did a lot of work, and it's a very funny story to realize how uh, you know weird things work in the industry. I did an a data kind of analytics project where I, based on certain things we can do, managing in operational process, the company can save like with 2 weeks of effort of one developer, company can save around, I think it was like close between half a million to $1 million. Okay, that's it. And the management says that it is a great, that's something we're looking for, but that is not a priority for us for this year. And this was, the presentation was in March. So imagine that. Okay, great product or great idea, no implementation, you are internal to the company. Okay, a great story, helps everyone, but it's not a priority. So the motivation of the management is not the same as what you are thinking. Okay, they like the idea, they like the presentation, they like the benefits, but it's not what's motivating them to actually take the risk and get it. So these are the, you need to be aware and plan for these kinds of things, and that's what is the journey when you are going from hackathon to making a product. Okay, now the most critical thing is actually team alignment. If you are in part of a team, and like you are looking at those ideas and roles and responsibilities, who's going to do what, and I've underlined something at the bottom, and align on equity structure. Okay, it doesn't matter if you have known the team members since you are at grade school, but you need to get the basics right. You need to treat this not as a project but a serious business, and that comes from thinking at as a business. What's the equity structure, who's going to hold what, if somebody's going to put their own money, do they get more equity, what percentage of it, are there any incentives later on it, like everybody gets 25%. Let's say there are 4 members. What happens if one of the member leaves after 3 months? Does that person still hold 25%? Those are the realities which break startup. And I've seen so many startups, I can't count, which have failed or not able to scale up because they had a very bad equity structure, whether at pre-seed level or post seed and investments, and because they were forced into not so great investment terms. But the fundamental theme remains the same, that you need to be always look at your business something which is going to grow, and look at all the things which can trip your product, your company from growing and scaling. Okay, what if we have a partner, one of the team members who was non-contributing? How does equity work? Okay, do we what if somebody wants to hire uh, another person underneath the team, and how does the equity work for that new founder? Gorbino has a question. What's your opinion on building as a solo founder, particularly for B2C? Gorbino, I think, see, you have to define what kind of, at what scale you want to grow. Okay, so if it's like a passive business you want to create, which is going to, let's say, after say 1 year or so, which can grow, let's say couple of $1,000 a month, maybe $50,000 a year, some kind of business, then a solo founder is kind of works. But the moment you try to scale, you'll have the same kinds of issues. And the fundamental issue I always see from a solo to a team is the processes are not set to scale. So you have to always think that if I have a team of 20 people, and if I'm creating this enterprise, how do I scale at the team level. And sometimes what happens is you need those expertise, and you need to get somebody in who has those reach in terms of expertise. How do I get them? Do I have to give them equity? How much I have to give them? Okay, and the same rules apply. So you have to, if you transition your thinking from a product person or a tech person who was excited with the idea, and think like a CEO or an executive, and think the business as an entity of its own, who has its company has its own employees and founders and their team structure and the scale and those things, then you start actually kind of thinking along these terms of how many employees should I have, what equity structure, what kind of incentive laden terms I have. These kinds of things happen. Okay, I hope I have answered questions. Feel free to ask more questions along the way, guys. Okay. Uh, the the next bit of is basically pretty standard, I would say. Rework hackathon to output core features. What the other thing is, focus. I would always say that focus on usability, but it's like it's so dependent on the kind of product and the kind of industry you're serving. So in my experience, there are some industries and certain segments where you know sometimes you doing a 2010 2015 style UI is much more effective than doing like a single page application which is going to inject DOMs and all these things. Okay, it's funny, but sometimes people want to click something on the page. They want the page to relate and refresh the data. They want to see it visually. If they see a lot of things changing when they click on the page and the page not refreshing, or numbers change, they feel that something is wrong. And that's the reality. Like, when you really know the customers, you need to understand is what drives their decision making, what they like to see on the screen. So it doesn't make a product good. So if you're, as I said, just 2 minutes back, if you're driven from a tech perspective, you want to make and use, the API. You want to, let's say, you want to use React and single page and look at the fun stuff I can do. But from a user perspective, they just want something which is very basic. They want to click, they want to go to the next page, they want to see the data, they want to see the whole page change properly and load, these kinds of things. So that's what usability is. It's not like uh, you know uh, how quickly you can get in a lot of industries. Sometimes I have created dashboards which look like spaghetti, utter spaghetti, but that's what user wants, because that's how they do their work. They want to have everything before. So imagine a dashboard which has 15 dials, gotchas, and timers and triggers, because that was a user or an executive is using things to manage, and that's how they were doing visually or mentally, and they wanted that. And that's doing a very UI visually bad, I would say, in modern standard. But what the customer wants or thinks in their head and see it on the screen, I was able to increase the product value by 15% just by doing the dashboard, because they could see what they were thinking in their head and managing work on their screen. Okay, it's like anybody who's a tech guy would be embarrassed to show such a dashboard, but money. The next thing is iterative development. This standard stuff, I would say. You do small, you incremental. Okay. But you have to, this comes from my technology side of work, is no matter what, you need to create a structure and a process of getting things done. Because as you go along, what you need is not like the the inspiration what you see in hackathon, like, I'm inspired, I have that high adrenaline going, I'm going to get things out. You need a very consistent process of things getting out of the way, so you can predict and you can plan, because you can't run at 100 miles per hour every day. So make sure there are basic ideas of how development process works, the infrastructure you're going to use, how things are going to develop, those kinds of things. It doesn't need to be elaborate, but anybody and everybody who's working has to have an idea that this is the process we are going to follow. And that makes it more of a business rather than a product. So there's a fundamental difference, because everybody knows that this is the process of development, how to go about creating new features, how about thinking, how about requirements, those kinds of things. And there's an alignment on that. Otherwise, you are dependent on, like, you know, somebody going out of their way to deliver output. And that's never a good thing to have. Yep. Yep. The next is GTM. Think about always about the market and the customer. And sometimes, be customer and decision makers are different, by the way, particularly in B2B. uh, like the person who actually uses the product use is different from the person who's going to write the contract, going to get you in, and they want to see different things. So who are you going to develop for, who going to market to? Okay. And in terms of marketing plan, I would say that there are so many channels, online, offline, influencers, uh, you know in I would say in retail, particularly, like, TV. I've done TV and radio jingles as well. uh, what happens is you have to be very clear focused on what kind of customer base you're going to target, and look at a marketing plan and to work with it. But I think one of the critical thing which I have seen over and over again entrepreneurs fail is making those hard decisions. Let's say you worked really hard on a particular channel. You spent weeks. I'll come back to you, Ashir, in just give me a second. So you spend weeks in terms of talking to influencer, negotiating, those kinds of things. You have some metrics and how to evaluate and all those things. But the one of the important things which a lot of entrepreneurs fail is to going into the sunk cost fallacy. Okay, if I have done the work, okay, I'm a very intelligent guy. I'm sure all of you being part of the hackathon, I have done the work. I have talked to the customer. I have negotiated. I have got great terms. This is the channel. I know my user base and everything. If it doesn't work, you need to cut it out. Okay, don't try to. A lot of times what we try to do is you want to make it work. Sometimes it's evident you are facing a barrier which you can't surprise. Cut it out, save the money and time, focus on something else, regroup and do. Okay, don't kind of work along, I need to make it work, because then it becomes what you're trying to do in hackathon. You are making it a challenge to yourself that I'm going to prove that I can make it work. That's not how businesses work. You are running a viable, scalable business. You're not doing a competition where I want to prove. By extending yourself, your time, energy, mental capacity, and money, you can make that bad marketing execution into a, okay, kind of one, but you have failed in so many other things. So think about that. Is it worth? Just cut it down. I have done wherein I have cut down within one day a complete marketing plan which the team worked through 3 4 weeks. I said I just don't want it. I don't see the metrics. I'm not seeing what was promised at the top of the funnel, these kinds of things. I'm cutting it off. You need to come with something else. I don't want you to waste another couple of days and try to make it work. Yep. Yep. These are the challenges, scope creep. It happens to all of us, but I would say just keep it simple, nothing else. Just work on your core, look at your customer, you know, those kinds of things. Lack of user adoption. There's no good answer for lack of user adoption. It can be, there's just the timing, positive or negative, just the channel, uh, I would say little working with a lot of experimentations help in terms of understanding. And I have kind of, couple of interesting things I have particularly do with have done with B2Cs, work along time of the day and week kind of marketing strategies to look at, particularly for e-commerce, and do a lot of A/B testing and stuff like that. Just thinking out of the box in terms of when to give offers, and what time of the day and what time of the week, and user decision making, those things. But that came with a lot of talking offline with customers to figuring out their decision making process, and those kinds of things. Yeah. And the last is resource constraints, but it's life of startup. Yeah, nothing else, like beg, borrow, crawl, you know those kinds of things. Yep. Just to conclude, it's just the beginning. I reiterate, structured follow-up is critical for success. You need to have a very structured way of thinking and doing things. Okay. Constantly evaluate, re-evaluate your idea. Okay. Because if you have not evaluated your idea 10 different ways, I'm sure when you go for a funding, seed or any kind of angel funding, the potential investor will make you reevaluate it, reevaluate yourself, but also the idea, the product, and just build, iterate, launch. Figure out your customer, their motivation, whether they are motivated enough to spend for you. And just remember, you are creating a business, not a product. A business is not just a product, but it is people, like as I say, man, material, money, method, something else. Yeah. So it's a 5 M's, by the way. So you have to think along all those lines. Like, who are the people involved? What are the material involved? Or methods involved? Machinery involved? And money involved. So these are the 5 levels. You're always thinking along those lines. So yep. Just type it in, or you can talk about any questions you have. Yep. Hashir, yeah. Okay. Let me go. Hashir, yeah. Like, see, I wouldn't say it is bad that you are making a decision maker helper which everyone can use. Who is everyone? Okay. If you are making for everyone, then you are making for no one. So identify a particular decision making objective a user has, or a particular sector has. Let's say, uh, just to give a decision maker for high schools for applications, college applications. You have a target. Then you work, because your decision making is much more precise. You can put a lot more, you know, expert knowledge, and more accurate decision making process, or more steps, or cater to the customer. Otherwise, you are not making for anyone. If you're making for everyone, you are not making for anyone. I've used the same saying a couple of times, by the way. So think along the audience. You need to focus, because if you don't know who the customer is, who going to target to, you can't just spread it around and put it on, some Instagram or some kind of advertisement. It doesn't like work like that, because you have to choose. Even if you're doing kind of, if you go and do, let's say, Facebook ads or Instagram, you have to choose the target, the zip code, the location, the persona, all these things. What are they motivated for? So you- your ability to do marketing is also quite hindered just by not having, you know, a user persona, user target. A NAV. As a high school founder, I'm building a B2C app and I've secured grants for funding. Should I attempt to get VC backing for a pre seed round, or should I deploy it to market and then apply for funding? Uh, NAV, first of all, it's great that you got grants. That shows that, uh, without knowing much more about the grant process, that shows there is a body of work you have put into your idea. Okay, it's not that you have done, hopefully not done a half a pager and you got a grant, but if an idea, you thought about it, you put it on paper, you revised and everything. So that's a start. VC backing will come at a later stage. Okay, get your product into the market, understand the market, grow it, and then when you are seeing challenges in terms of scaling, or you see that vision wherein you can make it, let's say you are making $5,000 per quarter, after 6 months or a year, and but you have a plan to scale it to, let's say, $100,000 per month in business. Then you look, what are the barriers? Money is one, and then you are going for, pre-seed or seed funding, angel funding. You have to plan what you're going to do with the money, but you need to show certain kind of traction, and those kinds of things. So always kind of, uh, if you go to VC at this stage, okay, you're not creating a product, you're creating Excel sheets for VC, and it's going to be very painful. Like, they'll ask you to make 5 year projections of revenue and investments and EBITDA and uh, cash flow calculations. That's very painful. I have done it a couple of times. You don't want to do it. Like, how do you project a fire, what your revenue from this business is 5 years down the line? We have barely started. Then everything is made up. But the point is, you are not thinking about making a business. You're thinking about how to, get some funding from VC. Your business is catering to your customers and users, not the VCs. Okay, so focus on the idea, work along those lines. The VCs will come once understand the business better. You're working on metrics, you're working on numbers, you work on lot on Excel to do projections, these kinds of things. You do cohort analysis, these kinds of things. It works. Like, you're if let's say you're doing a B2B, they're going to do a, what you call as, you know lifetime customer value, LCV. They're going to want to do to cohort analysis, like a customer who's ordered today, how long it does take, order, uh, you know after 3 months, 6 months. You have to do, it's an entire chart. It will take a lot. You don't have the data. What are you going to present? So, like, you're stuck. So rather than thinking about VCs and everything, just think about the business. And once your business a little mature, these things naturally, you'll have the data as well to present. Thank you. Kevin Arul Raj, what is the best advice you can give to a high school student who wants to succeed? Uh, just like a business or product, Kevin, Succeed in what? Okay. So think along that. Start with that. What you want to succeed in, and making a startup. Okay. What do you like? I'm going to be a bit blunt. It will take $50 to create an LLC and have a startup. Another $100 you can spend on GoDaddy, create a website, a domain, and email, and everything. You have created a startup. So have much more precision clear. Okay, like I will say that a younger me, college days, my definition of success was I want to create a startup which has an exit. Now, okay, making a startup that will look good on a college application. Okay, so it goes down. So your customer base is the AOs, right? It's not somebody using it. Okay, so like I would say that in your case, if you're looking from an admission perspective, you know your traction and those numbers, those kinds of things are not important. What you have to look is your startup idea fits with your overall theme, what you're projecting in your college applications. It can't be just disjointed. Okay, and your ability to put focus in terms of why this startup matters, what it does, and why it matters to you, and how it relates to who you are. That's what you need to think about. So you have to not think what is the idea, or this is my inherent idea, how can I fit. Think along those lines, that you are an entrepreneur, and but your objective is to look good on college applications. What startup idea I can do in the theme, in the area which I am projecting myself in the application, which will enhance it, and then go along that way. Okay. Okay. Ashir, I agree that not having target audience might be a problem. However, struggling to choose my target audience. I have seen multiple models for each use case: founder, student, business planning, allowing the users to choose which persona to embrace. Should I just stick to one? Stick to one. Stick to one. The reason is it's simple. You're validating. You have an idea, you're working, you want to validate it. Okay, stick to one. There's no uh, it will take you more time and make your decision maker, I would say, mm, possibly generic or imprecise if it's has so many personas. Stick to one. Focus on making the product really precise and useful. Then you can expand. Okay, I would say that stick to the one which you feel is easier or faster to reach out to and get them started using, whether it's founders or students, whatever might be case. Okay, let me see if I have any questions. Okay. Yep. Did you ever consider big tech? What do you mean big tech? Big tech companies? Deven Patel? Yeah, I have worked 3 years in a corporate company, actually, in financial services. 125 years old company. And how did it compare to startup culture? See, big tech or any kind of companies, bigger companies, established companies, have a very strong culture. Okay, so you have to kind of absorb and adopt that culture, and the culture is in the way of thinking, the way it operates. So that's the first thing. If you resonate with that culture of the way thinking the organization works, the way decision making process works, then it works out. So I would suggest to be uh, you know talk to existing employees and figure out how the culture is, and and see if it fits for you. In startup, what happens is there are units of different teams who have their own mini culture going, but you get to at least the early stages, you get to define a lot of the lot of the processes and culture of the startup. So if you like to be, what you say, that not be fearful and excited by the unknown, and defining things, and making people, hey, let's stop, let's get this thing correctly done. I want to define how we go about doing this thing. See, I want to create a process, how I'm going to do how we going to do a CI/CD pipeline. It's not about technology, it's not about the process, the steps, and transparency, and reporting, all these kinds of things which come to play. So if you think that you're driven by doing those kinds of things, startup works much better. I'll come back to that, Sven. So that's one. The second is, in corporate, right, there are very few things that needs to be discovered. It's like anything you want to do, somebody has done something similar along the way. Okay, so you should be able to kind of figure out those things, and making sure you understand how things were done and how the corporate culture works in terms of getting things done, and and adopt and follow the process. Okay, so that's how it is. Some people are driven by things happen, but there is a process to do it, and great things happen. Some people are driven by making things happen and creating their own culture, or those kinds of things. So you have to understand where you fit in. And there is like, it's not like if you fit here you don't fit here, but if you understand what drives the organization forward, and how you can be successful, then you can kind of put your thinking mindset along the way, and move along. So just like you think along yourself as a product, and the company as the user, you have to think how the user thinks. Yep. uh, Sven, what is a CID CD pipeline? So it's like, CID CD pipeline is basically continuous integration, continuous deployment pipeline. So one of the things which started, I think, 20 years back was what is called as TDD development. Which is test driven development. So everything you write, you test. But we started using Maven and everything. What happens every time a feature or any kind of thing is done, it will go back into the main product, integrate in the main product. You run a bunch of tests, making sure everything works, and it gets deployed. So there is no separate process where you're doing 100 different things, and then at the end of 3 weeks or 1 month or 6 months, you're putting it to the customer or the tester or us. Like, it's a pipeline where it's like just in time. The moment you write something which the developer feel is working, is moment the next moment it's available to potentially the end customer to actually test. And creating that pipeline to do it is what is called as CI/CD pipeline. Yep. So that's it. Any more questions? We have, I think, a few more minutes. Thank Thank you. You can, my name is Prashant Kondle. You can reach me out on LinkedIn. if you are serious about startup ideas, or you want to evaluate more those kinds of things, just reach me out. I'll be happy to help. Yep. Other than that, have a nice day. You already done great by being part of a hackathon and creating something new. So best of luck, everybody. Thank you.